Hey, so 3 years ago I started making my first 3D game, which also happens to be a first-person shooter, and after a 2-year break I decided to come back to this project. This first devlog will just be a compilation of the existing clips, but if you've already seen them, you can just think of this as a remake with a better mic. Enjoy! Hey, I made my own first-person shooter with Unity. It's pretty bad, but I'm going to show you it anyway, so here's how it went. So the movement script should be ready. I should be able to look around and move around perfectly, no problems whatsoever. And after a couple of changes, it now looks like this. Then I added some smoothing to the camera and did the same thing to the movement so it would be less snappy. And after that I added some gravity so the player wouldn't float in the air after going up a hill. And then I ended the day there. Next time I loaded up the project, I decided to update the Unity editor, and that was a very bad idea since it turned all the assets blue whilst being imported over. Although blue is an amazing colour, I didn't know how to fix this, and I still don't today, so I just created a new level. For this next one, I decided to go for a blocky design, which will include some parkour later on. But first of all, I need to be able to jump, which looks perfect. So moving on from that. Eventually, I ended up with something like this, which was pretty cool, but something was missing. It was a first-person shooter, without the shooter. The time to get back to work. I added a raycast bullet and some bullet particles, as well as some red targets around the map to test your aim on. Turns out I wasn't very good at my own game, so there's going to be a lot of hidden footage, which I will not show for the sake of my own embarrassment. Or so he thought. Actually, it's been 2 years, I don't know where these clips are. I guess you won't see the forbidden gameplay. I realised I could change my sensitivity in the code, so my aim wouldn't be as potato, although I should probably make that an actual setting in the game. I also want to add an aim down sight mechanic, but that's a plan for the future. So anyways, that's my game so far. I'll keep working on this, so it'll actually be fun to play one day. So what happened to this game 7 months later? Well, I would say I've been busy with uni assignments, but I've just been blowing leaves with a graphics card. Those were some good times. I should play that again. I do have a couple progress clips so far, but the game currently looks like this, but as soon as I make it somewhat playable, I'll share an update. Well, after a whole year, surely I've made a lot of progress. Yeah, that didn't happen. So what exactly did I do all this time? Well, let's just call it interactive first-person shooter research. Anyways, let's see what did change. So I wanted to make an in-game menu for setting the aim sensitivity, but I had to adjust the camera script so it would be compatible with this. Shouldn't be too hard, right? Well, usually when you add something new, it tends to break something else, and I ended up spending the next 2 hours redoing the whole of the camera script. Eventually I got it working perfectly fine, so now I could start making a pause menu. I added settings for horizontal and vertical sensitivities ranging from 1 to 100. Not sure why you'd want the max sensitivity though. After that, I started to make an aim down sights mechanic by changing the field of view of the camera and adding that sensitivity into the menu. Once again, wouldn't recommend setting that to the max. After that, I added 2 buttons to restart and exit, ready for if I ever release this game within the next 30 years. Okay, I've still got 28 years, it's fine. I also discovered what my game would look like in dark mode, which I'm tempted to keep in as a feature. Next, I decided to make a quick gun model and a particle system to go along with it. Afterwards, I got to work on a respawning system for the targets around the map, which sounded easy at first, but as always, I encountered strange problems. Also, just ignore the fact that my character is just a floating gun with no body. Now that I had more targets, I started adding some animations to the gun, which was tricky at first, but with enough time, you guessed it, I made it worse. And somehow after that, I made a burst firing pistol, which did look pretty cool at least. So with my animation skills clearly on point, I started working on an ADS animation, which didn't go much better. It looked like a little person, which was pretty amusing. In the end, I decided to delete the work I spent days rigging the animations, and instead recreate the gun transformations in my code. Eventually I got it working nicely, and the last change I wanted to make was a recoil effect when you spam the trigger. I spent a couple of hours trying to implement this into the raycast bullets, but after a while I remembered something I never thought I'd have to use after school: maths. I used an exponential graph to calculate the recoil produced per shot, and yes, there were probably simpler options out there, but I chose the sad one. And now the game looks like this. There's still lots of things I want to do with this game, so I'll probably make a new devlog at some point, maybe in another year's time. Oh, I guess this is overdue. But anyways, thanks for watching.